Okay, so this is analysis week commencing 13th of November, Monday, Forex and indices as well. Just look at the economic calendar first of all, but it's not as aggressive as an NFP, for example, or a normal news week. Monday's dead pretty much for news. There's nothing. Tuesday we have some excitement. I'm just gonna filter this out first. So Tuesday we will expect CPI, I believe. You scroll down, yeah, core inflation right here. So watch out for that because that's a big event. Probably going to anticipate a lot of things into that. So a lot of your big moves, they're going to want to wait for that big CPI event to unfold. So if you're looking for some particular equal lows, equal highs, a daily fair value gap, a higher time frame target basically is what I'm trying to say. Whatever a draw in liquidity in a higher time frame is, your weekly direction, that's going to wait on this piece of information to be introduced because it will then cannibalize on the available liquidity that this event will provide. Okay, so watch out for this. Probably don't trade before it, but you can after that. Okay, so moving on to Wednesday, not much apart from the retail numbers and these figures as well. They're all kind of coming out at the same time, so that's fine. And then, of course, Thursday, you have jobless claims figures. Nothing unusual there. Nothing extreme. And to finish off this week with a Friday, we only have building permits, so again, a quiet Friday as well. Now going on to the charts. Again, I was waiting last week. Last week, my main area that I was watching was this weekly inversion fair value gap to see if this will now act as a resistance. Okay, think of it, I guess, in a way, support turn resistance. Yes, think of it like that. Okay, so this was support here. You can see, I mean, it kind of went through it, but it took this low out, but then it did, give you some sort of a rally, and here as well, above from this monthly fair value gap. And now here, we're seeing it go all the way up to this consequence of encroachment, but look where the bodies are. The bodies are not violating it, okay? They're inside. And yeah, if this was to act as a resistance, okay, supposedly, then you'd be expecting a move, okay, lower. Where lower? Probably here, most likely. That's your first swing low. Market structure shift on a daily, I guess, and then obviously our weekly goal that I'll be looking at for this week is this, okay? Previous weekly low. So that's what I'm expecting for the dollar. Of course, it could absolutely go the other way as well. CPI is yet to come now. For counterparty liquidity pairing purposes, for the week I'm talking about, I still like these highs here, these relatively equal highs here. I do not think they'll stay as it is because they're really, really good idea for, resistance, So for sentiment purposes, they probably will take it up there at some point. You got a three drives pattern going on here as well, and that area is at equal lows on Euro USD as well. So you never know, CPI might be the event that does it, okay? We'll have to just wait and see. Now moving on to the Euro USD, which is a bit of a mirror image to this. We'll just take this to a daily again so you can see this inversion fair value gap. Oh, let me just bring that fib back. So let's just get rid of all that. So here you can again see this weekly inversion fair value gap. We never got to it, unlike this. We got up to its inversion fair value gap, which was actually the same candlestick. But obviously we did come lower, closed off this fair value gap, but look, the bodies are just staying above that largely, okay? So again, the expectation here would be the previous weekly high in straight and simple terms. That's something that jumps off the chart straight away at me. But something more interesting, because it's not just going to move in a straight line, just go up there. Yes, sorry, two things: previous weekly and the fair value gap. So yes, there is two reasons. Okay, so that's the long-term direction. Now there's one more thing. Okay, these are the equal lows I'm talking about. Three rise pattern. They're relatively equal lows. Not to mention there is an open BISI from the NFP week here still. This is where that fair value gap ends. So I would expect it to at least, if not all the way here, then at least fill this 1 hour fair value gap up, okay? So again, counterparty liquidity pairing for the week. I think this is where it's gonna be at. Okay, so just watch this going into this New York, because you might want to stay in this and then reject. There's a trend line liquidity going on here as well. But going on to the pound dollar, that's mirror image to the euro and the dollar. So again, came down here, there's an inversion gap, but unlike euro, this never closed above its inversion gap. So technically this isn't even an inversion gap as of yet. Okay, it's just a fair value, an old weekly fair value gap right now classified as. Okay, when will it be an inversion gap? Simple. When when the body is laid above it and it closes above it, and then it approaches it from higher, basically from a higher position than where the fair value gap is, and then it finds support at this point. Where's the sensitive point? Well, the high and low and the mean threshold. So 3 points are sensitive, okay? And then of course it expects something like this. So right now it's not an inversion gap, okay? What do I look for? Well, right now, since we've closed way below that, for starters, I'd be looking at, again, this high to be taken out. For a short-term target, you might look at this daily fair value gap here. Okay. And of course, this as well. These are your targets. Now, counterparty, I think, lies here. You have this daily order block here as well, and a fair value gap at the same time. So I would expect price to want to gravitate towards there for counterparty liquidity pairing purposes. You may even get really excited to go lower here, because that will really build the sentiment that we're going lower. Perfect to pair buy positions with. Okay. So that's for pound expectations. So that's all forex. Okay. Now with the news, like I said, it can do two things. It can either run it towards the weekly direction, which is obviously risk on at the moment, looking at the dollar so far, or it can send it towards the counterparty direction to engineer sentiment, that it's going to go lower, and then that will be cannibalized later on. Okay, so moving on to the indices now. We have so quarterly shift objective, if you remember with ICT, he obviously pointed towards this, and obviously we filled that, okay? And we also know that every quarter, okay, every 2 to 3 months, there's a shift, there's a change in the market direction, okay? Which is what we're seeing right now. So look, after it filled this, it's just had this huge rally we can see here, shift in market structure. Now, we know there's nothing bullish right now about the markets. What's going on in the world, okay? Absolutely nothing bullish. So this is obviously all manipulation, okay? We know that bit, okay? That's the easy bit. Now, how can we, contextualize and frame this here? Well, I'd probably keep an eye on this breaker here. Why this candle? Why not this? Because the body closes higher on this, okay? So this is your bullish breaker, daily, okay? You also have a fair value gap here, and an order block here, okay? So you got multiple things going on. So this is obviously a really key area in price action that I would definitely keep my eye on, okay? And also, if you go on a weekly chart here, so this SIBI, here between these 2 points, that's your inversion, okay? So you want to see if this will act as a support if price comes down to it. And if it does, then then you can start looking for this area. to see if it wants to gravitate towards that, okay? Because that's your weekly high then. So that's one thing. Now, that's the main idea, okay? If that's obviously if it wants to go higher, CPI will make this clear what it wants to do. Or it might just want to rush into this straight away, take buy side here, and then continue going lower. We don't know that yet, okay? We just gotta wait and see. We need to get intelligence on this. But 4 areas, okay? Inversion, breaker, fair value gap, order block. Okay, I know that might be a little bit of a mouthful there, but that is, if you want to know what I'm looking at, then there you go. That is what I'm looking at right now. Now, fair value gap monthly. We got real close to it here, but we never actually even got to the midpoint of it. We just got to the midpoint of this daily fair value gap. This small volume imbalance here. We closed it. So again, yes, we still have the sell side options open for the long term, for the higher time frame I'm talking about. This isn't something that'll just take place over the next, couple of days of sessions. Now, I would just want to label them and just the body because the wick is just too long. And in this case, we would just prefer to label the wick. So daily breaker. See this area, like this is going to be a little bit of a difficult one, so we just got to label everything real correct here. So just label that as daily fair value gap. And like this. Just gonna get rid of some of the things that we do not need, like this 930. That's a really old 930 org opening range gap. Don't need that no more. So that what I was drawing is on the weekly, by the way, okay? Not on the daily, just so you know. Alright, yes, on the daily you still have some other things in that area though, such as this fair value gap, but then it's just going to be an overkill, having to do way too many things and you're just like, what do I look at? I mean, so just got to keep it realistic as well. So that's a weekly breaker. That's a weekly fair value gap. Weekly fair value gap. And order block. So this is one of those areas where there's a lot of things, so you have to be very nimble and careful here, because even if it wants to go down, it might just do a little bit of a support run up, and that's enough for your 5 handles or a small target. You get that and you're out. So this is a weekly. It's an inversion color. We just put W in. And of course, your old weekly consequence encroachments might still come in fair value gap of the mean threshold. So I'll keep that as it is. This we can just get rid of now. This as well, I think. Don't need that. Because if I go into the daily, we have more stuff here to work on the daily chart, okay? So those are, this is a really powerful area in price action. There's a lot of things going on. Also look at how the mean threshold was exactly the low almost. Just by how much? Just by 1 point. It went 1 point lower. Obviously it needs to do that sometimes to book price. And then it shot up. So also watch this order block here. This daily order block here. That's for today. This is for like today's price action, but again, my area of interest I've already clarified is this for now. Go on the weekly chart. So this is a previous weekly high. I'm gonna label that previous weekly high. I want to see if the inversion can act as a support. Lending it as support. And this is obviously, this candle is your breaker, bearish. So we'll just have to see if price, in the short term at least, uses that as a resistance to go lower. Maybe bounce off this order block or keep going lower, bounce off the inversion fair value gap, okay? There's a lot of things. Again, we need intelligence, okay? Because yes, there's a lot of things. There's a breaker, there's a high here, there's a order block, there's an inversion. There's so many things here, but we don't need all of that. All we really need is a session, a time of the day, and a PD array, a draw on liquidity, where it's gonna draw to. Okay, boom. That's all we need. We don't need 100 things on the chart. So this is possible scenarios. Of course, one thing will only happen. 5 things can't happen at the same time. Time would only allow for one to happen. So yeah, we just need to study, analyze, and just look at the price with the vision of the higher time frame, what it wants to do, and just manage your risk. And if there's an obvious draw and the time is right and we're in a discount and there's a buy side draw, just gotta wait for expansion in that area, fair value gap, put stop under it, take partial halfway across where your terminus is to your entry, halfway across that is your partial, and then just final TP at the terminus. Simple. Thank you.